everyone, welcome to episode 35 of the Just One End podcast. My name is Elizabeth Zimmerman, but you can call me Liz. You can find me on Instagram as Just One End podcast. You can find me on Ravelry as Algebrina. And it's been a long time since I've podcasted. I'm coming to you from Cochranville, Pennsylvania, where I live with my husband Greg, our two children Eric and Tilda, and our cat Sunspot, who has settled on my lap for today. We'll see if she stays there and if I can resist petting her, since every time I do, fluff just goes in the air. Today is Friday, May 15th. I took the day off today and the day off yesterday. My birthday was on Wednesday, so I decided to just take a couple days off. During all of this COVID stuff, I am continuing to work. I've always worked from home, so I've just kind of business as usual for me, except I've obviously got kids home with me, which is a bit unusual. So, so a day off nowadays is not quite the same as it used to be. My husband's actually still going to work. He, even as they're lifting all of the stay-at-home orders in various places, he's actually been going into work the whole time because he falls under the essential employees, grouping. So it's been interesting. Not terribly awful. I mean, we've survived, and I know a lot of people have it a lot worse than we do. So anyway, I have not recorded a podcast in a while. One reason is because everybody's home all the time. Sometimes I record late at night. Sometimes I record on a day off, and usually on a day off, the house is empty. It's a lot easier to record when people aren't around because there's no interruptions and you don't feel quite as self-conscious while doing the actual recording. But I figured, you know what, I have the day off and the kids are in the basement playing. We'll see how long that lasts, but I figured I'd get a podcast episode in. It's been a while. I don't have a ton to show you, honestly. I have not been crafting a lot in the last couple of months. I have made some significant progress on one project in particular. A couple of projects actually since the last time I did an episode. But yeah, it's not quite as much as you'd expect, but that's okay. Other than that, though, I mean, before we get into that, normally I go over, stuff that's been going on, but since, everybody's been on lockdown, not really a whole lot has been going on, so I don't really have much to recap you with personal-wise. So we're just going to jump into knitting then. Last time I talked about how I had signed up for an embroidery in knitting class. That was the last thing that I did before everybody went on lockdown. So I did go to that. That was at Frame and Fiber in New Jersey. Carolyn Bloom was the instructor. And this is the sampler that I made during that class. So this is one of the ways that you could do embroidery on the wrong side, and then this is a way to add some embroidery to your knitting on the right side. It was a really fun class. I really enjoyed it. I highly recommend any classes that Carolyn teaches. She's a great teacher. When we can take classes again. So that was fun though. I did talk about how I was going to get some ideas for how to add embroidery to my Brunswick tee, because I have a color that just kind of washes me out, so I needed a way to add something to the collar, at least maybe the sleeves too, just to break it up a bit. And I did come away with some ideas. Unfortunately, I haven't actually acted on any of those ideas yet, so so the ideas are still sitting with the Brunswick tee in a bag that I had at class and have not been touched in a couple months. So someday I will actually act on that, and we'll hopefully have a product to show you. Other than that, the only finished object I have to show you, I don't actually have with me, because that same weekend I took it to Frame and Fiber to be framed. I have been talking about the 2019 stitch along that I was working on from Cloud's Factory. It's called Humans After All. The last episode I was about halfway done, and I did finish it. I finished it within, I guess probably about a month to 2 months, I guess, after I recorded my last episode. So that is done. I don't have it with me because Paige has it for framing. She's probably done because I gave it to her before this all started, but I can't get up there to New Jersey to pick it up. She probably could ship it to me, but honestly, I like visiting my friends. So someday when we can visit again, I will go and pick it up, and then I'll have the finished product to show you. But I do have some pictures that I'll put in. So I will insert those now. So that is complete. And that means that I started on the 2020 stitch along. Like I said, that's my only finished object, so we are going straight into works in progress now. Let me take off my needle minder, which is my little pin that I magnetized. We are now in May, so that means 5 pattern pieces have been released for the stitch along. I have caught up through April. I haven't started May yet. I have it, I have it on my computer actually pulled up to work on and have for several days now. I just haven't actually pulled it up and worked on it yet. But this is what I've got so far. So this is January through April. It is the Brothers Grimm is the pattern this month or this year. And you can see it's got some alphabet elements to it. You've got a couple of letters over here and letters over here, and then there's different borders and little symbols and things throughout. And then there's a fairy tale in each month. So it started with I can never remember what it is. It's the animals that sing around town. And then it went to The Princess and the Frog, and then Hansel and Gretel, and then Rapunzel. And then the next one is going over here, I believe, or maybe it's over here, and that is Cinderella. So that is the progress there. I'm very excited to be keeping up with it this year. I keep saying month, but this year. So hopefully when the year ends, then I will actually have it finished rather than, only a couple of months done like I did last year. But it's fun. It's fun to work on. It's a different shape this year. A lot of the previous ones have been much larger rectangles. This one's more of a square. So it's just kind of interesting to see how they broke it up this year instead of, in years past. But it is, like I said, it's the Clouds Factory Stitch Along. They do one every year. I've done it for the past, this is my 4th year doing it. I like to stitch it on the linen. I like to get the kit that they put together. So they send you all of the floss. I put mine on a floss organizer. I bought these on Amazon. I love organizing my floss this way for a project because this way you can pull off a strand of the floss one at a time as you need it. And I love working with floss that way. I don't like having to deal with them on bobbins. I like to store them on bobbins, so I can find them easily for one-off kind of things. But when I'm working on a project like this, especially when it comes in a kit, I like to put it on one of these organizers. So this goes into my project bag along with this and my Q-snap because I like to do it on a Q-snap frame. And I bought I think it was an 11-inch and an 8-inch, and I made 2 rectangles, 8x11 rectangles to stitch on rather than working on the 2 different squares. So that is my stitching project that I'm working on right now. I've also got another stitching sort of project. This one's not cross stitch. This one's actually embroidery. I bought a while ago. I'm sure I would have shown it on the podcast at the time. I think about a year ago, I bought a embroidery sampler kit from Brooklyn Haberdashery. They're not the ones who made it. They carry it for somebody else. I think it's a French company. But they were the ones I ordered it from. So I bought that, and I've had it for a while. And I decided that I wanted to pull it out and start working on it. I'm trying to remember why exactly I don't remember what prompted me. It might have been just around the New to You make along with everybody trying new things. I decided, I'd like to do the embroidery since I have the kit. So this is a project that I keep at my desk at work. It's while I'm in conference calls and meetings where I shouldn't be multitasking with work, but I can use my hands. This is the project that I work on. I usually keep a pretty simple knitting project there for that purpose. I just happen to be doing it with embroidery these days. So this is what the sampler looks like. It comes in a big linen sheet, and then there's pages, and each page has a different kind of stitch on it. And then eventually you make it into a little book, and then it's a little sampler book. So I have completed almost half, a little over a third. So I've got this page done, which had some running stitch and back stitch and some whipped stitch and a Pekingese stitch. And then I've got this one, which had a bunch of chain stitches. And then we went to blanket stitch on here and some buttonhole wheel eyelet stitch. And then we've got some seed stitch, sheaf stitch, straight stitch, cross stitch, double cross stitch on this one. And then the one that I'm on now is all couching stitch. So I've got my, the big one on top, the little letter, and then this square that is just full of couching stitch, which is the most recent thing that I finished. And then I'm moving on to some decorative couching stitch. So I've got quite a bit of progress. I also got quite a ways to go. There's a bunch of stitches that I'll still have to learn, and they have instructions along with all of the pattern pages to figure out how to do things. I will admit I have spent more time going on YouTube to try and figure out how some of these stitches work, just because I have a hard time interpreting some of the instructions on how to do the stitches, but YouTube is always fantastic for figuring something out, especially if you are a visual learner rather than reading instructions, actually seeing somebody do it. So that's been really helpful. So it'll take a while. I've still got a ways to go, but I'm really enjoying doing it, and it'll be a fun thing to have when I'm done. I really like that it opens, or that you put it together like a little book that you can leaf through. If you have gotten this kit, I don't think Brooklyn Haberdashery has it anymore. I'm not sure where you could get it online, but if you do happen to already have it and you're finding it challenging to figure out what you're supposed to do from the written instructions, because like I said, they're not super complete or really easy to understand. Brooklyn Haberdashery has a story saved to their Instagram page where they flip through a completed embroidery book, which is really great for seeing whatever the thing on the page is should look like, which has been really helpful. Because some of the things, like it says, like one of them was a blanket crescent stitch, which is not a thing that I could look up. I couldn't figure out what that was supposed to look like. So by being able to see that story, I could see, oh, okay, that's what it should be. Because the pictures in the kit, there's a couple of pages that they've taken a picture of the finished product, but not very many. It's only like 2 pages out of the 8 or 12 or however many pages there are. So hot tip for you there, that Brooklyn Haberdashery Instagram page is super helpful for figuring out what it should look like. And even if you don't have it, if you want to go check out their page, and just see what it's going to look like when it's done. It's a really cool little project. So I'm working on that. So I've got 2 knitting projects going, both of which you've seen. One does not have a ton of progress, but I'm going to show it anyway to keep myself honest. This is in a project bag that I made for myself. It's got a little accessory on here that is my intent little, I don't know, washer that you put a word into. We did this at the Flying Fibers retreat earlier this year, and my word that I picked was commit, and my thought behind it was that I need to commit to my projects and finish them. So it's not done yet, but we're getting there. Anyway, this is a project bag that I made myself. I made it out of some fabric that I picked up from Allison from Daisy Lane Design. And the project in here is my woven shawl. Now you have seen this before because I've been working on it for over a year now, I think. But I have been putting in a little bit of work. Not a ton. It's still not my main project. Mostly because it's just, it's really simple. It's very mindless. So if I wasn't working on the embroidery project, this would be the project I would work on at my desk. And I have several times. But it's the woven shawl. It's by Casapinka. There we go. It's a growing shawl. It's one of those asymmetric things, so it's growing over time. It's got a really cool texture to it. The yarn is from, I don't have the ball band anymore, but it's from Ginger Twist Studios, I think, in Scotland. It was a yarn that I picked up on my Scotland trip. I am on the second ball, so that's the that's the big news, is that I've progressed to the point where I've joined the second ball. I can't remember exactly where I joined it. And I stopped putting a progress tracker in because I couldn't remember when I'd even put it in. So I wasn't keeping track from a certain point in time. I might put one in now so I can see, okay, what's the progress I've made since the last time I podcasted. But yeah, for now it's slowly growing, but I do have the second ball of yarn in. So the end is near. I'm more than halfway, even if it's only by a couple of rows. But there is progress. So that is one project that I have in the works that is getting a little bit of work done on it. I love this bag. It cracks me up that I keep it in here because this is not really a two skein bag. It's very stuffed, but that's fine. It is what it is. Okay, the other project that I'm working on, there is a lot of progress on this one. Funny enough, most of the progress is only in the last couple of weeks. But it is much more progressed than the last time you saw it. So the bag that I have is this fun little llama bag from Tanny Casey. The yarn that I'm working with is Quince & Co. Chickadee. It's in the Iceland color. It's a nice gray. It's got really subtle and not very often specks of black in it that I only notice as I'm knitting it, which is kind of nice. It gives it a little bit of dimension. But the project is the Mastan cardigan by Rachel Brockman. When I showed this on my last podcast, I had done literally 4 rows of ribbing, so not very much progress at all. And now I have completed the majority of the body knitting that needed to be done. So I'm about 1/2 inch away from the part where you break for the sleeves and do the shaping and do more than just knit and knit and knit to add length. So so that's the part that I am coming up on. I really like this pattern. It's very cable-y, you can see. It's got kind of a zigzag cable thing going on. There's some it's broken up by some little eyelet panels. It's really nice, and I love that I have gotten to the point on it. Really, you can see my progress keeper there and right there. That's about a week ago, and that's about the point where I finally could read my knitting and my cables to figure out what row I was on without having to refer to the pattern, which sped me up by a lot. I was using Knit Companion. I took all of the different charts because there's like 4 or 5 different charts that you have to use, and I put them together in a big row, and so I could use my little highlighter bar to figure out which row I was on each chart. But yeah, it still takes a while you're looking at the pattern. But I can read it now. I know what to do on each row. I can see, okay, there's where my cable is, so I know where I'll be crossing over. And that works out really nicely. The great thing is, because it's a zigzag pattern, you're only cabling in one direction in each section. So you never have to guess it's really obvious which direction your cable is going in. Since it doesn't change direction within the same panel, it's okay, this one's always right-leaning, so I just have to do the right-leaning ones in the right-leaning section and always the left-leaning ones in the left-leaning section, which makes it a lot easier to be, clear on which row, what you need to do for which row. So I've kind of flown on it in the last week to get to that point. Like I said, that's maybe half of the knitting. Um, and I'm really excited to move on to to the rest of the sweater. Although I really have enjoyed doing this part. It was really slogging for a while there, and I was like, oh, this is gonna take forever. But once I was flying on it, I really enjoyed doing the cable rows. So I'm gonna be kind of sad to have to pay attention again and start doing the shaping and then moving on to the sleeves. Okay, so those are the projects that I'm working on now. I don't actually have any acquisitions to show you, but I do have kind of an exciting acquisition that I've made and is on its way to me right now. It's somewhere over an ocean, I think. I purchased a 3D printed sock knitting machine, which I did not know was a thing. Somebody posted it on Instagram a couple of weeks, or I don't know, last month or so. I don't remember who, although based on the fact that one of my other friends also ordered one, it was probably a mutual friend who posted it. But the makers, Ashcroft Makers, I believe, is who it's from. Let me check real quick. Yes, Ashcroft Makers. So they make a 3D printed circular sock knitting machine. You can get it in one of 3 different cylinder sizes. You can also purchase the additional cylinders. So they print the majority of the parts of it and then they put it together. The needles, the hook part isn't printed, so they kind of assemble it with that. I have not actually seen it in person yet. Like I said, it's on its way to me, so I have no idea what to expect as far as, how it'll actually work and how awesome it's going to be. But the really awesome thing about it is that it is much more affordable than a lot of the sock knitting machines out there. I really like hand knit socks. I like sock yarn, but I do not actually like knitting socks. I've knit maybe half a dozen socks. I knit one for my sister. I finished a patterned sock fairly recently that was in worsted weight for a friend of mine. And then I've got like 4 or 5 pairs of my own that I've knit. I've knit a couple of shorties, just different kinds of socks. And I don't love the process. I just don't love knitting them. And I know some people love knitting socks, and more power to them. I just don't happen to be one of them. And I've tried pattern socks, and I don't particularly like knitting socks. However, I have a ton of sock yarn. So I wanted to show you some of the sock yarn that I'm really excited to knit up once my sock knitting machine gets here. And I am planning to mostly just crank some tubes and then add on afterthought heels and toes and cuffs, at least to begin with. I might get creative. I think there's ways that you can actually knit heels and toes, at least heels, on the sock knitting machine. This one doesn't come with a ribbing. Like, I think you have to have a special ribbing cylinder to do ribbing on a machine, which they don't offer. So I think at least cuffs I have to do. I don't know. I need to learn more about sock knitting machines and how they work and what you can do with them. So I will play around with it when it actually comes, which I'm hoping will be within the next couple of days. I honestly don't know. The tracking hasn't updated with an expected delivery date yet. But I do want to show you some of the yarn that I'm excited to knit up. This is one. This is a self-striping ball that I actually won from another podcaster, from Crafty Mama Designs. Candy Coated Yarn is her yarn company. Crafty Mama Designs is her, I think it's Crafty Mama is her podcast. So it's Dawn. She dyed this yarn, sent it to me. I think it was Easter yarn, so probably 2 or 3 years ago now. 2 years ago, probably. Anyway, I've had this yarn for a really long time. I really like it. It's got a beautiful green in there. Some very vibrant spring colors. So I'm excited to turn this into socks and not actually have to knit it. I've also got a couple of West Yorkshire spinner skeins of yarn that I have long wanted to be socks and haven't wanted to knit. I think it was from their, oh, I don't remember which collection it was. I'm pretty sure this one's called Mojito, so I think it was like a drinks collection, although it doesn't say on it the name, so I couldn't tell you what this one is. But these are our 2 skeins of yarn that I know would make great socks, so I'm looking forward to those turning into socks. I have 4 skeins of mustache yarn from both Camp Wool Slayers last year and ordering using the coupon code that we got from Camp Wool Slayers last year. So I've got those. These are Cassiopeia A. This is Ready Player One. I'm very excited about using this one. This is Vespa. And then this one is Shiny Happy People. So I'm really excited to use all of those. And then lastly, one of the most exciting things for me, I had signed up for a sock blank of the month club for 3 months a really long time ago. And I had knit up one of them already, I think. I'm trying to remember what I've used. I think I had 4, and I used one, and I've started another. I started this one. This is the Fox. And I got this far into a pair of socks. So I'm pretty sure this was going to be a Row City roller, and I got through the heel. And I think I had started it in, I don't know. I honestly can't remember what I did. But yeah, this is one of my sock blanks that I got from Andy, from Audrey Sunitz. So I'm really excited to use this one. I'm trying to remember. I know that I have a couple sock blanks that I used and made socks out of. I know one of them was Gail's art. I cannot remember if I used one of my Audrey Sunitz ones or if this is the first one that I actually broke into. Somebody who has watched the podcast for a long time may actually be able to tell me better than myself because I can't remember. Anyway, that one was called What a Fox. And it's sitting in my Fox bag. I have not touched this sock in a really long time, so I honestly can't even remember when I cast it on. But this is my project bag from Steel City Stitcher. I thought the Fox was appropriate to theme up, but that's going to get ripped out and eventually knit into my sock knitting machine. Now, if anybody uses a sock knitting machine and does anything with sock blanks, I'm guessing that the crinkles might cause problems for the knitting machine, so I might have to like unravel it and skein it up and then kind of, soak it and thwack it and make it lose its crinkle. But if you have any experience with that, let me know, and I will probably heed your advice, because I have more than one of those. I have the What a Fox. I also have Dear Jane Doe, which is this purple one, which has deer on it, and this one is actually sparkly. There's that. And then lastly, I have Dog Days, which is this one. It's got these puppies on it. They're really cute. People have yelled at me for wanting to knit them because they're adorable, and they are. They are very adorable. But I do plan to save at least one part of the image and just knit the rest of it into the actual socks. So that is my big plans for when my sock knitting machine gets here. And when it does, I will bust it out and I will show you guys. I haven't decided yet if I would offer like sock cranking services. If you'd be interested, let me know. I mean, I'd certainly like to help out people who haven't purchased one for themselves or just aren't interested in it, but still want to have sock tubes. I know that's something that people do, that people do offer, so I don't know. I just don't know yet. It'll probably depend on my comfort level with it, because you don't want to mess up somebody's sock yarn if you don't know what you're doing. So that I think is all I have to show you. There is one thing I wanted to show you just to keep myself accountable. I've showed this before. I haven't touched it since, but I've decided that when I finish my Mastan cardigan, my next project is going to be the Cornucopia. I'm pretty sure I was talking about it last year around this time, because I remember thinking I would shop at Maryland Sheep and Wool for some yarn and didn't end up finding anything, and then I ended up buying yarn at Camp Wool Slayers, and I'm pretty sure that was in May. So I've had the yarn for a year. I did start it. It just required a lot of concentration because it's brioche and it's like shaping in brioche, and brioche isn't something I have done a whole lot of. So I am recommitting to getting this done. It's really beautiful. Like, it's just squishy and soft and gorgeous. So eventually I do want to work on this project again too. So I'm putting it out there. It's in the ether. Hopefully that will get done. However, I will point out, putting it out there and telling you guys things doesn't do me a whole lot of good. Because at the beginning, sometime in the last episode, I said I would be podcasting monthly and that I would be reading Agatha Christie books and that I would be going to bed early. I have done none of those things. Oops. So we'll see if I actually work on that. I actually don't mind that I haven't done all of those things. You know, you guys know life gets in the way. I love to do the podcast when I can. It just hasn't happened. So anyway, I'm going to wrap things up there. I just don't have a ton to talk about. Sorry, guys. Hopefully I will have more progress to report on my sweater. Maybe it will even be done the next time I talk to you. I will definitely have my sock knitting machine so I can show you some of the tubes that I'll be working on and maybe even some finished socks. And I'll show you what some of this gorgeous yarn has converted to. So on that note, I will see you guys next time. Bye! You gonna sit with me? Oh. Okay, but I'm not petting you because you're just gonna make fluff in my face. I'm gonna move around a lot. There's a cat just here.